Think about the very last time you walked into a brightly lit coffee shop, ordered your favorite drink, handed the cashier $5, and immediately felt a deep, uncomfortable physical pang of guilt in the pit of your stomach. Think about all the countless times you have felt like an absolute financial failure just for paying a small monthly subscription for television entertainment, or for daring to take your family out to a nice dinner after a brutally exhausting 40-hour work week. You have been meticulously, mathematically, and psychologically conditioned since you were a child to feel deep personal shame for enjoying the absolute smallest, most basic comforts of human life. For decades, the traditional financial education industry has built a massive, multi-billion-dollar empire by aggressively selling you one of the most toxic, paralyzing, and mathematically absurd lies in modern economic history. This massive lie is constantly pushed by famous, wealthy financial gurus who stand on brightly lit stages, point their fingers directly at the camera, and aggressively scream in your face that the only reason you are not a millionaire right now is because you bought that $5 cup of coffee this morning. They tell you with a straight face that if you just canceled your movie subscriptions, stopped eating at restaurants entirely, and lived a life of absolute misery and extreme painful deprivation for the next 40 years, you would magically wake up one day as a wealthy person. Today we are going to completely and violently destroy this lie. We are going to permanently rip out the deeply ingrained scarcity mindset that is actively keeping you permanently trapped in the lower middle class. These traditional financial gurus treat you like a financially illiterate, irresponsible toddler. They actively convince you that generational wealth is built by playing entirely on the defensive, by obsessively cutting coupons, counting pennies, and hiding your money under a mattress out of pure fear. But if you look closely at the true global elite, the top 1% of the people who actually own and control the infrastructure of the world, you will realize a terrifying, undeniable truth. The true multimillionaires and billionaires of this world do not get rich by saving the money from their morning coffee. They get incredibly wealthy because they deeply understand that there is an absolute mathematical limit to how much money you can possibly save. But there is absolutely zero limit to how much money you can earn. In this massive video, I am going to expose the brutal, dark mathematics behind the myth of extreme frugality. I am going to show you exactly how the scarcity mindset is actively destroying your brain's cognitive ability to generate real wealth. And if you stick with me until the very absolute end of this video, I will give you the exact step-by-step escape plan to completely change your financial identity from a terrified, penny-pinching saver into a highly leveraged, massive income creator. To truly understand the absolute magnitude of this psychological scam, we must first deeply analyze the basic mathematics that these fake gurus use to completely brainwash the working class. The argument always sounds incredibly logical and mathematically sound on the surface. The angry guru looks at you and says that if you spend $5 a day on a coffee, you are wasting $150 every single month. They tell you that if you took that exact same $150 and invested it into the stock market at an average 8% compound interest rate for 40 straight years, you would eventually have nearly $500,000. When the exhausted, overworked average person hears that massive $500,000 figure, their mind absolutely explodes. They feel instantly guilty, they feel completely stupid, and they solemnly promise to never, ever enjoy a simple cup of coffee ever again. But there are three massive, dark, and financially devastating problems with this fantasy mathematics that the guru absolutely refuses to tell you. The first massive problem is the unforgiving reality of human time and physical energy. The traditional financial system is literally asking you to sacrifice your daily joy, to severely repress your quality of life, and to live like a miserable monk for 4 entire decades, just so you can finally hold a large sum of money when you are 65 or 70 years old. They are asking you to voluntarily live like a beggar during the absolute best, healthiest, and most vibrant years of your youth, just so you can guarantee that you will be the richest elderly person sitting in the nursing home. The second massive problem, which is even more mathematically terrifying, is the silent, invisible killer known as economic inflation. $500,000 sounds like an absolute fortune to you today, but because of the relentless, completely uncontrolled printing of fiat currency by the central banks, 40 years from now, that $500,000 will likely have the actual purchasing power of maybe $100,000 today. You are not going to be able to buy a massive luxury mansion, and you are certainly not going to be able to retire on a beautiful tropical beach and drink out of coconuts. That heavily inflated money will barely be enough to cover your basic, skyrocketing medical costs in your old age. You are sacrificing your present reality for a future illusion that is actively melting away. But the third problem is the absolute most destructive of them all, and that is the crushing psychological burden of decision fatigue. Your human brain has a strictly finite, limited amount of mental energy and willpower every single day. When you blindly adopt the toxic religion of extreme frugality, you actively force your brain to spend massive amounts of energy analyzing every single microscopic financial decision. You spend 30 exhausting minutes standing in the supermarket aisle, actively comparing the prices of 2 different brands of toilet paper just to save 40 cents. You waste expensive gasoline driving 3 extra miles out of your way just to find a gas station that is 2 cents cheaper per gallon. You constantly stress out, and you aggressively argue with your spouse because they accidentally bought a slightly more expensive brand of breakfast cereal. You are actively, intentionally training your brain to become compulsively obsessed with extreme scarcity. You are focusing all of your intellectual capacity, all of your creative genius, and all of your vital human energy on the absolute wrong side of the financial equation. You are playing the massive game of capitalism in survival mode, while you are spending your precious, highly limited mental bandwidth desperately trying to figure out how to save $50 a month by walking around your house turning off all the lights. The true millionaire is using that exact same mental energy to discover how to aggressively increase their monthly income by $50,000. This is the fundamental, mind-bending difference that permanently separates the struggling working class from the financial elite. Traditional financial education teaches you to play the game defensively. It tells you that your corporate salary is a small, rigid, unbreakable box, and that the only possible way to have more room inside that box is to actively make your life smaller, cheaper, and more miserable so it can fit inside. But the financial elite play the game strictly on the offensive. They look at the tiny, restrictive box of their starting salary, they violently smash it to pieces with a sledgehammer, and they decide to build an infinitely larger box. Think deeply about the concept of mathematical limits. If you currently earn $3,000 a month at your job, it absolutely does not matter how incredibly extreme you are with your frugality. It does not matter if you completely stop eating out, stop driving a car, and go live underneath a bridge in the freezing cold. The absolute, undeniable mathematical limit of what you can save is exactly $3,000. Your potential for expense reduction is severely, permanently capped by the number 0. You mathematically cannot save more money than you actually earn, but your potential to rapidly increase your income has absolutely no mathematical ceiling. You can spend your weekends learning a highly lucrative, high-income skill. You can start a scalable digital business on the internet. You can learn how to leverage capital from commercial banks to buy cash-flowing real estate. You can actively scale your monthly income from $3,000 to $10,000, $50,000, or even $100,000 a month. The human energy required to figure out how to earn an extra $10,000 is very often the exact same amount of energy required to aggressively, painfully cut $1,000 out of your family budget. One strategy inevitably leads to massive abundance and complete geographic freedom, while the other strategy guarantees a life of bitterness, resentment, and paralyzing financial scarcity. The massive industry of debt gurus and extreme frugality is actually a multi-billion-dollar corporate machine built entirely on the exploitation of your personal fear. They know perfectly well that the vast majority of the population is absolutely terrified of money. They know people do not understand how the global economy works, and they know people are paralyzed by the fear of taking calculated risks. So these gurus sell them the absolute easiest pill to swallow, the comforting illusion of control. They expertly make you believe that by aggressively clipping supermarket coupons, canceling your streaming accounts, and refusing to buy coffee, you are somehow taking powerful control of your financial destiny. It is a psychological pacifier. It is designed to keep you completely docile, to keep you quiet, and to keep you obediently working in your corporate 9-to-5 job, genuinely believing that you are doing the right and responsible thing, while inflation and the global tax matrix silently devour you alive. Let us look at the deeply illustrative, contrasting stories of two different men, Charles and David, to brutally demonstrate exactly how this toxic mindset destroys human lives. Charles is the absolute perfect obedient disciple of traditional financial education. Charles earns exactly $4,000 a month at his corporate job. He is completely clinically obsessed with extreme frugality. He never ever goes out to a restaurant. He refuses to take his family on vacations. He drives an embarrassing, rusting 20-year-old car that constantly breaks down on the highway, and he aggressively monitors every single penny his family spends using a massive, highly detailed spreadsheet. Charles manages to miraculously save $1,000 a month through a lifestyle of pure, unadulterated suffering and deprivation. After 10 incredibly long years of living in voluntary misery, Charles has finally saved $120,000 in a bank account. He feels incredibly proud of himself, but he is physically exhausted. His marriage is under constant, terrifying stress from endless, bitter arguments over $20 purchases. He has completely missed the most beautiful, irreplaceable experiences of his children's youth, simply because he refused to spend money to create memories. And the absolute worst part of his tragedy is that due to the silent devaluation of fiat currency, those $120,000 buy significantly less today than they did 10 years ago. Charles is quite literally a miserable prisoner to his own savings account. Now let us look at the other side of let's look at Matrix. Let us look at David. David used to work at the exact same company as Charles, earning the exact same $4,000 a month. But David violently woke up from the matrix of scarcity. David realized that his core problem was never his expenses. His core problem was that his income was absolutely pathetic. Instead of canceling his gym membership or punishing himself for buying a good cup of coffee, David aggressively and selfishly invested his money and his free time directly into himself. He bought high-level business books, he paid for premium digital courses, and he ruthlessly taught himself a high-income skill in the technology market. He used his weekends not to hunt for cheap grocery coupons, but to meticulously build a highly scalable side business. 5 short years later, David's monthly income exploded from $4,000 to $15,000 a month. David lives in a beautiful, comfortable house. He takes his wife out to amazing dinners every single week. He travels the world. He buys whatever premium coffee he wants without ever looking at the price tag. And despite living an incredibly luxurious lifestyle, David is easily able to save and invest $5,000 every single month with zero stress and zero arguments. David did not just financially obliterate Charles by a massive margin. He literally bought his total freedom, his peace of mind, and his high quality of life. David focused entirely on the numerator, the aggressive expansion of his income, while Charles completely destroyed his own life by obsessing over the denominator, the pathetic reduction of his expenses. If you are listening to this right now, and you feel a massive, overwhelming mixture of hot anger and deep liberation, if you finally realize that the heavy financial guilt you have been carrying around for years was artificially implanted into your brain by a system that desperately wants you to remain small, scared, and controllable, then you are officially ready to escape the prison. But changing your deepest psychological programming requires a brutal, conscious effort. You have to actively unlearn decades of mediocre, defensive advice designed perfectly to keep the middle class exactly where they are. Grab a pen and a blank piece of paper right now. Disconnect from absolutely every single distraction around you and turn off your phone notifications, because this is your ultimate actionable step-by-step escape plan to permanently assassinate the scarcity mindset and completely reprogram your brain for the massive creation of wealth. Rule number 1. You must immediately stop viewing money as a scarce, finite resource that must be hoarded and hidden away in a dark cave. Money is simply a highly liquid tool of exchange. It is kinetic energy. Starting today, you are going to aggressively implement the rule of personal return on investment. Instead of feeling guilty for spending money on tools or services that actively improve your life, you're going to start calculating the exact value of your time. If paying someone $20 to wash your car or clean your house buys you 2 hours of free time, and you use those 2 hours to aggressively work on your side business or learn a new skill that will generate thousands of dollars in the future, you are not wasting money. You are buying time at a massive, incredibly profitable discount. Poor people constantly spend their time to save a little bit of money. Rich people constantly spend massive amounts of money to buy back their time because they deeply understand that time is the absolute only resource on earth that can generate infinite wealth. Rule number 2. You must declare an absolute immediate moratorium on all low-level financial decisions. Stop wasting your precious, highly valuable mental energy arguing over $5 or $10 bills. Automate your savings entirely. Automate your investments so the money leaves your account before you even see it. Establish a fixed budget for your basic daily luxuries, like your coffee or your entertainment, and then completely, permanently forget about the pennies. Your human brain needs to be clear, incredibly sharp, and starving to hunt down the big prey. When you completely eliminate the crippling decision fatigue of analyzing small purchases, you magically free up a massive amount of cognitive bandwidth that you can now use exclusively to solve complex problems, identify massive gaps in the market, and figure out how to add extreme value to the lives of other people. Millions of dollars flow directly toward the people who solve massive problems, not toward the people who are busy clipping coupons in the back of the supermarket. Rule number 3. You must initiate a relentless, aggressive, and highly focused pursuit to acquire high-value skills. A minimum wage effort will always, mathematically, yield a minimum wage lifestyle. It absolutely does not matter how much you cry and complain about the economy, the current president, or the government. The free market pays you exactly in direct proportion to the absolute difficulty of the problem you solve, and how incredibly difficult it is to replace you. If your current job can be easily performed by any random person off the street with just 2 weeks of basic training, you are standing in the most dangerous, highly vulnerable sector of the entire matrix. You have to invest heavily in your own brain. You have to learn how to sell high-ticket products. You have to learn how to write highly persuasive copy. You have to learn about automated sales funnels, computer programming, team leadership, or commercial real estate underwriting. You must dedicate yourself to becoming such a lethal, highly valuable operator in the open market that the mere idea of worrying about the price of a $5 coffee seems like an absolute hilarious joke to you. Your ultimate goal is not to barely survive until the end of the month. Your ultimate goal is to generate a flow of income so massive, so aggressive, and so overwhelming that your monthly living expenses become a tiny, completely insignificant fraction of your total revenue. Let us summarize this brutal, reality-shattering truth before you go out and take massive, life-changing action today. The popular idea that extreme frugality and painful deprivation will eventually make you rich is the absolute safest, most comfortable, and most destructive lie ever invented by the financial system. It is a piece of advice perfectly designed for terrified people who have already accepted total defeat, and who genuinely believe that their earning potential is permanently frozen forever. The true financial elite, the top 1% who actually control the global flow of capital, have never, ever enriched themselves by saving the money from their lunch. They enrich themselves by being incredibly bold, by taking highly calculated risks, by leveraging the bank's capital, and by focusing 100% of their massive mental energy on the aggressive, relentless expansion of their income. The only possible way to win this rigged game is to stop playing defense. Stop desperately trying to shrink your life down so it can fit inside your pathetic paycheck, and start building an intellect and a skill set so incredibly massive that the world has absolutely no choice but to pay you exactly what you are worth. If this reality-destroying information finally opened your eyes, if you feel like I just violently unplugged you from the toxic mentality of poverty and handed you the absolute permission to start playing offense with your life, then I need you to absolutely destroy that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. You absolutely cannot afford to miss the extremely high-level, aggressive wealth-building strategies we have coming up next on this massive channel. And speaking of massive financial traps that keep you completely enslaved and obedient, if you want to deeply understand the absolute biggest lie ever told by the traditional corporate world and exactly how the concept of trading your physical human time for a fixed, heavily taxed salary mathematically guarantees that you will never be truly free, you have to watch this video right here on the screen. In it, I break down the ultimate salary trap, and I show you exactly why the elite focus entirely on building equity and leverage, while the struggling middle class gets on their knees to beg for a miserable 3% annual raise. Click that video right now. Your future self will eternally thank you. I will see you over there on the other side.